All right, today we're cracking the code on a really big challenge, our mergers and acquisitions delivery process. We're going to break down the systemic issues we've been seeing from start to finish so we can all understand why our integrations so often feel, well, chaotic and unpredictable. So let's just jump right in with a number 90%. Think about that for a second. That is the potential loss in productivity our teams are facing from context switching when they're forced to juggle way too many M&A projects at once. I mean, this isn't just some small inefficiency, right? It's a sign of a much, much bigger problem. So, how do we even get to a number like that? Well, we're going to walk through the whole life cycle here. First, we'll talk about the foundation of ambiguity. Then we'll see how that turns into execution by fire drill. After that, we'll look at the non-existent finish line. And finally, we'll chart a path to predictability. All right, let's get into it. Part 1, a foundation of ambiguity. This is all about how, right from the get-go, our M&A process starts on really shaky ground. We're basically setting ourselves up to fail before we've even started. This quote, wow, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? We're so focused on preserving the relationship early on that we ask these really open-ended questions like, so, how do you guys want to do this? But what we should be saying is, okay, here's how Salesforce integrates. And because we don't, we create this huge misunderstanding from day one. And believe me, we pay for it later with a ton of rework and risk. And this slide just visualizes that problem perfectly. The companies we acquire hear our open-ended questions and they think, great, they're just going to replicate our systems. It sets up these expectations that are frankly impossible to meet because that's not how we work. You can see the disconnect right here. On one hand, the acquired company is expecting a total one-to-one copy of their setup, but in reality, we operate on a snap-to-core model. It's all about integrating them into our core platform, not rebuilding their world from scratch. And a huge reason this happens is because our architecture experts are brought in way too late, like after the plans are already made, instead of at the beginning when they could say, hey, wait a minute, that's not going to work. And get this, the main tool we use to try and capture all this information, the business requirement document, the BRD, it's just not working. It's proven to be super ineffective. It's kind of flimsy, and honestly, it just makes the initial confusion even worse. And you know what that leads to? A mountain of rework down the line. Okay, so that's the shaky start. Now let's move on to part 2, execution by fire drill. This is where all that early ambiguity really starts to snowball into total chaos when we actually try to build the thing. Here's another number for you, 7. That's how many M&A projects some of our teams are juggling at the same time. Can you imagine? 7 complex, totally different integrations all at once. And this chart, it just lays out the devastating impact of that. I mean, look at this. You're losing an estimated 40% of your productivity just trying to handle 3 M&As. But it's 7? That number jumps to a mind-blowing 90%. We are literally burning our people out for almost no productive output. So what happens? Well, it's this totally predictable domino effect that we see time and time again. The really critical stuff, the foundational pieces like identity and provisioning, they get pushed off. We'll deal with it later, right? But then the downstream teams get completely blocked. They literally can't do their jobs. And boom, suddenly it's a fire drill to unblock everything, and everyone is in constant crisis mode. And this quote from a team member just says it all. You're playing whack-a-mole to get rid of those risks. We're not being proactive at all. We're just reacting to one crisis after another. It's a game you can't win, and it is absolutely unsustainable. So we've got a flawed start and a chaotic middle. Let's move to part 3, the non-existent finish line. This is all about why these programs just never seem to end. Why can't we get to a clear, successful conclusion? It really boils down to this simple question. How do we know when we're done? And the scary part is, our programs can't answer it. There's just no common definition of what done even looks like. No standard exit criteria, nothing. And if you don't know where the finish line is, guess what suffers? Quality. Take UAT, user acceptance testing. In some cases, the completion rate for that has dropped to as low as 12%. 12! That is a gigantic red flag. And you know, the problem is actually getting worse because people are trying to use AI to help, but without the right guardrails. For instance, in one case, an AI generated 96 completely unnecessary test scenarios for just one feature. So what happens? Engineering gets flooded with bogus bug reports, and a ton of time is just wasted. This right here, this gets to the real strategic issue. We think of success as just completing the activity, not as delivering a measurable outcome. Our goal is just to be done, not to have actually improved anything. And the result? These programs just drift on and on forever in hypercare because we can't actually point to metrics and show the customer how we've made things better for them. So you put it all together and you get the perfect recipe for an endless program. You've got no clear exit criteria. You've got a lack of executive rigor. You've got constant scope creep. I mean, people are adding totally new product launches mid-integration. It's a system that by its very nature seems designed to never, ever finish. Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem from beginning to end. It's pretty clear. So let's talk solutions. Our final section, a path to predictability. Let's look at the high-level fixes that can get us to a system that's actually, predictable and scalable. The core idea is actually incredibly simple. It's 2 words, shift left. That's it. The whole philosophy is about taking all those critical make-or-break activities, like getting architecture's input and validating dependencies, and moving them all the way to the beginning of the process. Do it up front, in discovery, not halfway through when it's already too late. And this whole shift left idea rests on a few key pillars. First, you mandate early architecture involvement. They're not advisors, they set the rules. Second, you enforce hard delivery gates. Those critical dependencies, they're non-negotiable. You can't pass go without them. Third, you limit the work in progress. Cap the number of M&As at, say, 2 or 3 per team. And finally, you create standard, clear exit criteria so everyone knows exactly what done looks like. What this really does is it completely changes how we think about value. We're moving away from a world where we just check a box and say activity complete. Instead, we're moving to a world where we can show measurable improvement. It's all about proving to the company we've acquired that we've made things quantifiably better for them, using their own metrics. And so that really leaves us with one final big question we all need to ask ourselves. What is the true cost of letting just one more of these endless programs happen? The cost to our people in burnout, the cost in lost productivity, the cost in our credibility. Look, the path to a predictable system isn't going to be easy, but the first step is admitting that the price we're paying for all this ambiguity is just too high, and then committing to a much more disciplined way forward.